What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Elevation here with another episode of the JBP Elevated, where we speak on the Joe Budden podcast and all of his co-hosts on and outside the pod. I know you felt the tension on the pod as of the last 2 months worth of episodes, whether it's the free release or the Patreon episodes. I know we've all been paying attention to Ish not speaking seemingly on the microphone. And I'm going to speak a little bit to that. But before I get to that, I do want to mention that Ish has been speaking a little bit more on the past 3 to 4 episodes. It seems like he's gotten out of the funk that he was in at whatever point in time or for whatever reason. But I believe this quote-unquote funk that he was in is a direct result of the dealings with Joe, contract renewals, and a possibility of him having one foot out the door. It all started when he asked Flip, "Hey, you got paid on suspension?" And instead of letting Flip answer that question, Joe snidely hopped in and answered for him and was trying to make it seem like the legalities were the reasoning behind it. But Ish saw right through that, and it upset him to the degree that it started to interfere with his podding. Ish didn't forget how Joe stepped all on his wardrobe reveal. As I'm going to say wardrobe because initially, and Ish spoke on this himself, he said that he was going to have t-shirts being released as well. But he decided against the t-shirt drop and just stuck with the hoodies for now. And given that Joe stepped all on his launch, and when Ish named the price of $150 at the time, Joe was like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" And it just happened again with Jawan whenever Ish brought up the hoodies, or Jawan said that he wanted one. He asked what the ticket was, and Ish had said it was $130, so he already took $20 off. And Jawan's face said it all, that he wasn't trying to pay that ticket, not for an Ish hoodie. So they're stepping on his brand, and Ish is taking note to all of this, which is why when it comes to them hanging out as a pod or as a crew, you rarely see it. I'm not saying that they don't hang out at all. It's just, nah, nigga, I feel a little funny about the business with you. And then, of course, I had mentioned it previously on my last drop that Ish and Ice took note of Joe mentioning that Mark Lamont Hill is going to be joining the JBP. They already are, me personally, I feel that both of them are working on things outside of the JBP just in case shit goes awry. They already see that Jawan is becoming a permanent member of the pod. Joe just acknowledged that Mark Lamont Hill is going to be a permanent member of the pod, seemingly to give them breaks throughout the month. He made it be known that Parks is going to get breaks now. I have noticed that he's making sure to mention Savon as a part of the taglines now. My brother said that Savon's been back for a minute, but I've just noticed him starting to say Savon's name more frequently to maybe 3 months ago. So that might be the person that's coming in, because he often says that Savon's working remotely, but I feel like that would be the person to come in and take place for Parks if Parks decides he wants an off day. But similar to what Danny said earlier on his video, or at least one of the drops that he dropped today, shout out to the stop, he said that he was saying Parks' name just to save face, just so he wouldn't seemingly be calling out certain podcast members. But I don't think Parks is at any risk of losing his job or being replaced. It's just, if Parks wants a day off, he can take this day off. But it's just seeing all this culminate, which is why when I saw pics, my brother, he's sending me all the pics from the JBTV community, from Twitter and all that shit, because I'm not really on Twitter like that. But he sent me the pic of Ish and Mandy and Rory. This is why you see Ish not having any issue with anybody else that Joe has an issue with. And this is why, even more so, he wasn't ashamed, or he didn't feel a certain type of way taking that picture with Rory, because Rory and I have similar dealings with this same nigga. And I'm not saying an enemy of my enemy is a friend, but we do have similar dealings with Joe. And I don't know if this is by nature or if he sees that we are the quote-unquote second favorite behind him and there's a possibility that we can surpass him, and he sees that as a threat. So I don't know, because he always used to snuff on Rory when it came to that, what was it, the Duce Palooza? Or the Duce Palooza, however you say it. He used to step on that shit all the time when it came to Rory, and that was something that Rory ran. He started from the ground up, seemingly. So to see him do it all over again with Ish, there's a lot of correlations that Joe does throughout the years that will make you see how he deals with people when it comes to business. It doesn't, and he said it, I don't owe my friends respect. And I think he meant in a business sense, not necessarily in a friendship to friendship manner. But when it comes to business, I don't think I owe my friends any more respect in business than I would just someone that I had hired off the street type shit. And that's how he operates. So it's just taking note to that, and he doesn't mind taking pictures with these niggas. He doesn't mind mingling with these niggas. He doesn't mind not mingling with the podcast. But the main reason that I feel Ish was, I guess, distant from the podcast is because of Melissa. Look at the push that Joe is giving Melissa in her podcast. She had a botched first impression on her podcast because her name was stolen. Her initial podcast member or co-host or whatever, she already plexed with them. And the pod hasn't even launched yet, and she's already going through all this debacle as far as getting it off the ground. And Joe is still pushing this whole vehemently. But when it came to Ice and him having his podcast, even though it wasn't under the JBP and it was under Twitch, he didn't get anywhere near this type of push. Why is that? Why is that? But yeah, just know that Ish is taking notice to all of this. And I can't say that he's wrong as a result of it. I cannot say that he's wrong. So, do I think Ish has an issue with Ice? No, not necessarily on a personal level, but I do think Ish has an issue with Ice not having to take any accountability for anything. It seems like Joe is constantly shielding Ice whenever it comes to a topic pertaining to Ice, or whenever there's a possibility that the cast can dogpile Ice, you see Joe in there shielding that nigga, throwing up his force field. So I think Ish has an issue with that, but not Ice per se. Ish definitely has an issue with Melissa, and it's because a lot of the times when we see Melissa fumble, I feel like that's the person who she really is. And he knows that Joe and Melissa are trying to make it seem like she's somebody that she absolutely isn't. And he's frustrated because he knows who the real Melissa is, and he just does not rock with her. And it's starting to show a little bit through the seams. But the main reason that Ish wasn't speaking is because of the lack of support from Joe, the lack of accountability the other co-hosts have to take. He acknowledged it himself whenever he brought up that he's the one divulging the most personal information, and that Joe even paywalled his information. So you're making money off of my personal dealings, and the other people don't have to go through that. Because if that was the case, we would be cracking Ice's head on why you are a stepfather to 4 other kids and a younger baby mama when you just had a child, and all of a sudden you can't make that family work. We would be cracking Ice's head on that. But because he doesn't speak on his personal dealings, or he does, he makes sure to let it be known that he fucks all the time and he's a jackrabbit when it comes to fucking. They fuck anywhere, everywhere type shit. But he doesn't, no one speaks on his simp. No one speaks on his simp tendencies. He got his bag from the JBP, and instead of getting his child a better house, he got 4 kids that they call him Ice like we call him Ice. You think any of them kids is calling him stepdaddy? And he done went out and bought a house for him, them kids and the family, just so he can have some in-house pussy. But anyway, Ish is taking note to all of this shit, and he's paying attention to all of this shit. So I'd be curious to see if Ish has the balls to venture out in this sphere, but without Joe. Because it's clear as day that these niggas have tension, and it's a competitive tension. These niggas are competitive with each other, and Ish is looking at Joe like, you never should have come up across this money that you came up across. Because Ish is I got it out the ground ass nigga, and he's always going to attribute it to Joe's celebrity and not give Joe any credence. And then Joe, on the flip side, is acknowledging that Ish is him, but now I'm him, nigga, and you work for me, and there's a dynamic there, and Ish ain't trying to fuck with. So I'd be curious to see if this nigga resigns, and if he resigns, is he going to be one of the people that Mark Lamont is supposedly giving an off day to? But I appreciate y'all for rocking with your boy, man. I apologize for the hiatus. I don't know how many times I'm going to say that in the future, because y'all already know I'm going to take another break again. But I didn't delete my content this time, so at least y'all have that to go back. Y'all got the back catalog. But anyway, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the page if you already haven't. And until next time, y'all be safe. Peace.